Hello everyone, I am once again joined by my father. Say hi, Dad.
Hello, everybody.
In today's video, we will be reviewing The Thing from 1982, the John Carpenter remake. As you all remember, I did the Thing from Another World last year, the original. In today's video, talking about the remake. So, Dad, what are your thoughts about The Thing remake? And also, you saw this when it came out in 1982, despite its failure at the box office and not getting a good reaction from audience at the time, and yet you were like probably, let's say, I guess the 10% or whatever percent that loved it right away when you first saw it when you came out. Why is that?
Well, I really thought that it was an excellent movie, not because of the special effects. The special effects certainly added to it, and a lot of critics at the time criticized it for being over the top with gory special effects. But it was consistent with the movie and the movie's premise, which basically has to do with paranoia in an enclosed environment where these people were trapped in this almost like a prison.
Right.
So they were isolated from the world and isolated from any help that could be beneficial to them. And yet they were overcome with the fear of what another person may or may not be, because there was always the question about, well, what did this thing from outer space transform itself into? Was the person sitting next to me the thing, or was it somebody that I could trust? And this was something that was carried throughout the movie.
Right.
So I could not understand why the critics were trashing this movie, which really, thankfully, has been recognized for the classic that it is.
Right, that's true. Especially how, like, what's funny in today's modern world, this gets a better like reaction compared to like people who watch the original thing. Which I do love both films at the same time. I respect it for what it is. I feel like it's because the original is in black and white, and also because maybe the monster looks like, which I can agree, it looks like a vegetable. I think the monster of the original is like a pretty cool looking monster, but I think the effects, I mean, the look of the monster, the look, it doesn't hold up to a certain degree. Whereas in this, with this being a remake, it's more true and dedicated to the Joseph Campbell short story, Who Goes There.
This definitely is more consistent with what was written in the novel.
Yeah.
The original movie really, I guess, didn't have the ability, to do what John Carpenter did with the movie. And it's an excellent movie. I mean, it was, if it wasn't directly directed by Howard Hawks, it was greatly influenced by Howard Hawks.
Well, John Carpenter said that was like a film that really like inspired him and motivated him to do like his own version of this, but more true of Joseph Campbell's short story.
It is also in its own way a very, very good movie. And whatever they could do with whatever special effects they had were very, very important and effective in the movie. It was more of a character study, psychologically driven, and the different characters and their interactions with each other.
Yeah.
Also in an enclosed, isolated environment.
Right. Think of it this way, it's like how like an alien, they're isolated in space, whereas in this movie they're isolated in like I think Antarctica, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, something like that, because when they're out in the middle of nowhere, that's where the paranormal comes in, because there's like nobody they can like try to, it's not like there's like somebody like down the street they can contact to help them out, because it's, and then also like you said, anybody could have been the thing. That's basically where it like shows how like trust is like lost right there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know that John Carpenter specifically did not want to make a movie that was a guy in a suit.
Right.
He said that a number of times.
Right.
And he achieved it.
Right.
Because, this is certainly not a guy in a suit.
No. I think when I first saw this movie as a teenager, when you showed it to me, I was like amazed with that. I'm like, it's not just like it's an alien from outer space. It's anybody could have been the thing inside of them. That was like what really like drew and draw to me. How I was like really like fascinated with this. And but also I'll admit at the time I had no idea this was a remake. I think this is like one of like I'm probably one of the few, that minority of the generation where I was introduced to this first before knowing about the original. And as I get older, I tell people, don't skip out on the original. Like, watch it with an open mind and realize it's completely different compared to what you're used to seeing with the special effects in the John Carpenter, which again I said, love this movie too, but don't skip out on the original.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's right. One thing I think we should mention is that Rob Bottin, the guy who did the special effects for The Thing by Carpenter, was a young kid when he did this. And it's really a work of genius, considering how well these effects hold up through today.
They do.
Even with all the CGI effects.
Right. Well, then again, if this came out today, it would be like a CGI effect than how Carpenter master the practical effects. Also, sometimes when you think about it, imagine if the special effects were done by Cronenberg. In some ways, it feels like this is how Cronenberg could have done it in a specific way too, with the special effects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to say that when I saw this in the theater, I remember, you don't always remember when you see a specific movie in the theater, but this one I remembered.
Right.
And I remember seeing it and being overwhelmed by it, and I was thinking about this movie for days after and discussing it with people for days after. It had that much of an effect.
Right.
And that's why I was so, I just could not understand how the critics would trash this movie.
Right. As I said before, he was like the 1% that loved it right away, unlike most people at that time were like, yuck, this is horrifying, disgusting. And now it's funny, at that time people were still considering the original the better. Now it's like the opposite in today's modern day world, horror fans and film cinema and society, that, the remake is better than the original, which may be true, which I can agree. At the same time, but like I said, I'm not ditching the original at all by any means.
Mm-hmm.
Just, it's a personal preference. Like, some people say I still love the 50s version, which is okay. But just in my own personal opinion, I like this a lot better because of the effects and also the paranoia behind it that I've sort of realized now, especially how this sort of again, I think we brought this up before in previous videos about how this is another film that is relevant what happened recently with the coronavirus pandemic in a certain degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What was one thing that the old film, the original film, had, which the remake does not have, is a female character.
That's true. Well, I read that there is a female character in this film, but her scenes were cut, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I don't remember who the actress's name was or what her character was. I've never seen the scene. I just read about it somewhere on IMDb that there is a female character, but it's a very brief. Yes, I was saying that there is a female character, but I don't remember what the purpose of that character was that comes to mind.
Yeah, and one thing about the old movie, I should say the original movie, is that at the time there was the production code and certain things you couldn't talk about.
Right.
You couldn't be explicit about. But these old-time directors, the studio directors, they had a way of getting around it in a subtle way. Interesting scene in the original movie is one between the female character and one of the male characters, which showed her tying him up in a chair, which was very sort of risque back in those days and had sexual undertones.
Yeah.
But, that's the kind of thing that could be done then. They could get away with that. But there's none of that in this movie.
Right. Well, also
in the new movie.
Well, also because the original was it directed by? I hear mixed things about that he directed it or he produced it or that he.
Well, I think that it depends on who you talk to, because there are some cast members that will say that it was directed by Christian Nyby.
Yeah.
And other people that will say no, it was Howard Hawks. Yeah. I have a feeling it was probably a collaboration.
Right.
Because Christian Nyby was an editor for Howard Hawks for many of his films. So I think he wanted to give him the chance to helm this film. And even so, I mean, I'm sure that Nyby had been influenced tremendously by Hawks, just by being associated with him for so long.
Well, in the original too, they had some humorous moment because Howard Hawks liked adding humor and comedy a little bit in all of his films, and whereas this film does not have there's not one single, not even any this movie like makes you like freaked out, and paranoid from like start to finish. The moment like when the helicopter is chasing this dog, I was like, why is it like after this like cute little like innocent like animal until it's revealed how like there was a virus inside the animal.
Yeah. There was there was a little more than a virus inside.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, well, the movie they kind of like reflect to it as like the thing, and a thing that it is like a virus. That what if it could be like the play that it could like spread out.
Yes,
easily.
That's right. You could say it could be a metaphor.
Yeah, metaphor. Well, another metaphor like points out too that people have like analyzed with this film today is that was John Carpenter reflecting about the AIDS epidemic at that time in a way.
It could be. Yeah. Because that certainly was a large part of society at that time.
Right.
It was an incurable disease.
Right.
And it instilled a lot of fear in people.
Right.
And looking at others in a way that, does this person have it?
Right.
It was similar in the way that, is this person the thing?
Right. Just with AIDS and that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what about the performances? Like Kurt Russell, isn't he just like amazing to watch in this film? Like
he is. I mean, and the cast overall is excellent.
They are.
They all add a lot to the movie.
Right.
You think about people that may stand out. They had larger roles in it.
Right.
They all kind of contribute to it. I don't know that I can say if one was better than the other.
Right. They all had like that specific like moment where they were just like very very like convincing in a way where you really felt like they were really like being very convincing, like acting as if they were like
right.
Annoyed at each other. They couldn't trust each other because of not knowing this person's infected. Like that scene when they're like all testing out to see which one of them could have been like the thing. That's just like an amazing scene, and it's also like very very clever how they were all like testing each other.
Yeah, I think that was an ingenious thing that Kurt Russell's character came up with to try to test everybody,
right?
By taking their blood.
Yeah,
it's a very suspenseful scene,
right?
And the way it turns out, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Right,
it gives you a real jump, when he puts it in. And then to discover who was the thing
right.
at that moment.
Right.
And then that transformation and the whole scene, flying up to the ceiling, attaching onto the ceiling. It's just it was just amazing.
I remember when they're giving like doing the clear thing.
Yes, that's another great scene.
As a teenager, when you told me how that was done, I was like, wow. Like you said, it was like they got some guy who didn't have any arms, and they just like put a bodysuit on the guy to make it
right, to make him look like Willford Brimley,
right? Which again, that to me, I never would have guessed that was. I really would have assumed that was like Willford.
I'm sorry, not Willford Brimley. It wasn't Willford Brimley. It was.
He was the one who was.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah. He was the one that like lost his cool because he he thinking like killing everyone was the answer. And then they they leave him out in the snowstorm, and he's eating. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of the actor that played the part that did the initial CPR and lost his hands.
Right. I'll just put like a line or something or a picture of the guy as I edit this video. And also Keith David, he's another like great character. Right? Yes. It's always like fun to watch, no matter what the movie is.
Yeah, he has a great screen presence.
Yes,
and what a great voice, too.
Yeah.
He really has a great
voice. Of course he has a great voice. He did a lot of voice animation that I grew up watching as a kid in cartoons like Goliath and Gargoyles and I can't think of other, but he's done also Spawn. He did Spawn in the HBO show, which that was an upgrade compared to the 97 Spawn with Michael J. White. But anyway, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like the other thing too that makes this film also, it has like one of the best like endings in like a horror and a science fiction film where there's like no, like people have like pointed out like there could have been like an answer, but there really is, like, let's face it, there really is no answer to that. Like, was one of them the thing, or was like where the heck did like I don't remember Keith David's character's name. Like, where the heck did he go? Like that child. Where did Childs go? Like how where you been this whole time that you came out of like you just came back out of nowhere? Like, could he have been the thing, or did they just like die frozen? And And Kurt Russell said, "Let's just wait here for help to come."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the ending is terrific. I think that they tried, or they were going to make a more definitive conclusion, but they didn't go with that. And
Right.
I think the way they went with it, I think it makes it a better movie.
Yeah, I agree totally. And it's, I mean, people can point out all the theories and have their own personal, which is fine. But honestly, in my opinion, there is no answer of because people like want that answer, but sometimes there's not always an explanation. Sometimes we're just like left to like have the imagination. The way like this is just my interpretation. The way I see it, they die. They die of frozen. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. I think you're probably right.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's just like the way I see it. Not them saying no one has to agree with me on that 100%. And yeah, and also I know Carpenter said he sort of wanted, but before the films, obviously the film was a failure. There was no sequel. He was open-minded for the sequel at the time, but because of the failure and because there was no popularity of the film, that's why a sequel was never made. Despite they were saying, let's make a sequel, but.
Right.
At this point, I don't want a sequel. Let's just like let it alone. It's not meant for a sequel. It's just a standalone film. Yeah, but despite there was that 2011. At first, I thought it was another remake, but actually it was a prequel of explaining what happens prior. But I never saw it. I heard it was really, really bad for what I read from like internet, like YouTube. I mean, watching internet YouTubers or like film reviews and. I'm thinking, yeah, maybe it's just not worth my time checking out this 2011 prequel. You didn't see it, did you?
No, I've never seen it.
Yeah, no interest.
No, not really.
Yeah, not me. It's like how many more times we got to keep like redoing this format, or do we really have to like have a prequel where it has to be explained? Where again, nothing has to be explained all the time for what caused this crazy paranoia to happen. Any other final closing thoughts on the movie?
No, I would really encourage people to see it because it is a classic movie. Its special effects are phenomenal, and the story is something that is very well done. It's not only a special effects extravaganza, it also has an excellent story, and you get involved with the characters, which is really important.
Right. That's the important thing.
And also the 4K version is phenomenal.
Yeah, which we have right here.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think I may have saw this on DVD or Blu-ray the first time before the 4K was out that time in 2009, watching it. And this was also the second Carpenter film I saw at the time after seeing like Halloween. I remember like seeing the opening credits with his name. I'm like, wait a minute, that's the guy who did Halloween. Because at that time I was like being introduced to this Halloween, how like great of a horror like director he is, John Carpenter. I was like one of those like. You would say he's like, the godfather of like, of horror direct movies, Yeah. Also, the other thing too I want to touch upon too about the remake is that, what was I going to say? It escaped me at the moment. Just give me a second and I'll... Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to point out before about one theory I had about Kurt Russell is that I wonder, did he not become the thing inside? Maybe because he was his character was an alcoholic. Did he? Maybe like the aliens could not tolerate. Because I've watched a lot of like alien films where they couldn't tolerate a certain like allergic reaction to something.
Maybe
it's just a theory and a thought and opinion. I've always like wanted to point it out.
Maybe.
Also, here's another thing I want to point out. When we like not knowing like who like the thing is, like this thing that's inside of people, it's like. The fear of like the unknown, because even that's like relevant even like in real life, like what is out there in the real like outside of like, are there other aliens amongst us that we don't know about? It's like one of those things no one has the answers to about. There really are aliens out there. What was around before even human beings were around.
Yeah, it's not only aliens, but it's also say spies from other countries.
That's true. Yeah.
It's people that are outside of our society, seeping in and looking to hurt our society,
right,
or destroy our society.
Well, especially this did came out during the Cold War at the time. Well, that was like the whole like other thing too about the original, what it presented, the Cold War fear.
The original did come out during the Cold War, which a lot of the science fiction movies in the 1950s dealt with the Cold War.
Right, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, them, the list goes on and on. The Fly.
So another example, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a fear of other people that are different, that are trying to take over our society.
Right.
And that could be aliens, or it could be people from other countries that are looking to do the same.
Right.
Not only to infiltrate our society, but also to destroy our society.
Right. Also, before I wrap this video, I also want to mention how this shirt I'm wearing right here, Halloween. When you've seen Halloween, right?
Of course.
Do you remember how in the original, when the kids are in the family where they're watching television, and what's playing on during a horror marathon on Halloween?
Yeah, it was The Thing.
The original, and it's funny. Now when people watch that scene in Halloween, people are like, a foreshadow right there that he would direct the remake, The Thing, and it's at that time no one would have thought or guessed it when the original Halloween came out, and now in today's little Easter eggs that people point on the internet.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Who knew at that time he was going to direct a remake to The Thing? Mm-hmm. Go figure.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it. All right, so that was our review of The Thing. See you next time.
Take care.